This is the long-awaited Sony
A7 IV.
It's not just you. Whenever a product is recently released, a lot of people talk about it.
It's the Ronin 4D.
Ronin 4D.
Ronin 4D.
Ronin 4D.
And this isn't a coincidence that this ends up happening. This is known as a hype launch, where essentially brands will reach out to a series of influencers, typically through an agency, where then they will get the product into a lot of influencers' hands in order for them to talk about it. I know this because I've been a part of these launches. This is the new Polar Pro Light Chaser. And what's really exciting about these things is typically the brands that are reaching out to you are pretty cool brands and you're super stoked to be a part of it. But what happens on a consumer end is, well, you feel like this thing is incredibly important, which is exactly what the brand wants. Now, what these events are supposed to create are a few things. The number one is FOMO, fear of missing out. To break that down, it's everyone's talking about this one thing, why don't you have it? And I've recently noticed this with a lot of things being launched in October. Recently, DJI just came out with their new camera.
Weird looking techie gimbal.
And I felt like every single person who I love so much on this platform is talking about it. Which then all of a sudden all these like emotions started coming up where I'm like, oh, did I just make the wrong decision buying the Sony a7S III? Like, should I have just waited till the new DJI come out? And if you're like me, you've fallen for this trap a bunch of times. You've gone out and bought the camera. I've done this with a few pieces of gear. And the truth of this is, it's not any fault of the influencer who's part of this, nor is it fault of the brand. If anything, it's us consumers who are kind of falling for the trap. I want to share with you, do not fall for the hype. I've fallen for it, and it's not the best thing you can do. When we go online to look at a new product, there's two sets of emotions that are sort of simultaneously going on at the same time. It's entertainment and education. Those two sort of splinter off into being informed and being educated and just having fun. And what those emotions can do when they're simultaneously put together is it creates a feeling of you're missing out on the fun thing everyone's doing. You're back in high school and about 20 of the kids got a new pair of sneakers that everyone's talking about, and you're one of the kids who didn't. And so you run home and tell your parents about it. You're like, hey, Jerry and Jim and Jack. All of your friends have J's in their name. They're like, all of them have the new shoes. I need to get them. And then what happens is you go out and buy the new pair of shoes. And if that happened to you in school, you'll remember that about 6 months down the road, those shoes aren't cool anymore. And you just fell for the trap that all companies try to do. Hype.
With an unrivaled combination of cinematic technologies, DJI Ronin 4D represents the future of filmmaking.
Now, hype isn't the worst, and I'm not trying to say like, oh, like the filmmakers who talk about this or the creatives who you love who talk about this suck. They don't. One, they're just trying to pay their bills, and two, they're probably genuinely excited about the things that they're talking about. But you have to remember that it is part of a marketing launch. It's where these products all come out at the same time. And what you need to remember is the same as the way the news works, marketing works the exact same way, where the more people are talking about something, the more it feeds the idea, and therefore the idea becomes more believable. And so the believability and accuracy of this can really build up a lot of things, whether it's a pandemic or it's a new camera that's just come out. And what ends up happening is you believe the value of something so much because everyone's talking about it that you'll have to go out and go do it.
What will you do?
And I'm speaking to you from experience. What ends up happening is you'll buy the product that everyone's talking about, but you don't really need it. Or you'll end up spending thousands of dollars on this new thing to find out that, well, it actually wasn't as good as the original versions that everyone had. And after a few months, it's not actually that awesome. This happens time and time again. This happens to me with almost every single GoPro camera launch that comes out. Like, they have this dope recap video. I'm like, I need to have this GoPro. And I'll buy the GoPro and leave it in my bag for months. The best way to navigate any sort of hype is to just wait. Watch a video from a previous model from 2 to 3 years ago. Most people will probably be saying it's the best thing that's ever happened at that point. And go buy that thing or go subscribe to that thing. The number one pieces of gear that I have on my kit are all pieces of gear that are at least 2 to 3 years old.
Because this is the most powerful, fastest iPhone we've ever made.
iPhone 4. This is, beyond a doubt, the most precise thing, one of the most beautiful things we've ever made.
iPhone 5. It is the most beautiful product we have ever made.
The iPhone 6. They are without a doubt the best iPhones we've ever done. This is iPhone 7. It's the best iPhone that we have ever created.
Now, I am shooting this on a Sony a7S Mark III, which is a new camera that was hyped to the extreme. And yes, it was worth it, but I waited 6 months before actually buying it to see if I actually needed it and actually wanted it, above just being overhyped. So if you can, I recommend waiting unless you actually need this thing, and more or less just go, is this actually something that I need or want, or do I currently have something that actually fills that gap and I'm just ignoring it because the hype is so cool? To relate it back to the new pair of sneakers that someone's wearing, you probably have a great pair of shoes on your feet, a pair that fit really comfortably and that your mom spent a lot of money on for back to school, and now you don't want them because Jack, Jerry, and Jim have a cool new pair. We ignore our old for someone else's new. Constantly, always, the grass is greener on the other side. So there will be a new computer that is going to come out that will blow everyone's minds. A camera that will have new features that yours currently doesn't. A cell phone that has the brand new port or 5G or 6G or something that has been unseen or unheard of. Companies will continue to upgrade what they currently have to make something much better. And there will be new products that feed new products, so therefore you have to upgrade. A standard will raise, an expectation will get higher, but at the end of the day, look back on the stuff that was produced 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago and think, were they able to do it with what they had, and why can't I just use what already exists as opposed to falling for what's currently being produced?